Good evening, everyone. I'm told it's 5 o'clock, so let's get started. Welcome to this meeting of the Kingman City Council. It's a regular meeting on Tuesday, October 19th, 2021 at 5 o'clock. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Miles,
Present.
Vice Mayor Watkins,
Here.
Councilmember Mello,
Here.
Councilmember Nelson,
Here.
Councilmember Samily,
I'm here.
Councilmember Scott Staley,
Present.
Councilmember Walker. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Tonight, the invocation will be given by Pastor Tony Henry of Kingman Nazarene Church. Please stand and join for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time and this opportunity to be able to pray openly for our city council and our elected officials. Father, they don't have an easy job when it comes to making decisions that affect the citizens of Kingman, and there will always be people who disagree with them. So Father, I just ask that you protect them and give them guidance. Give them your wisdom, creativity, and discernment. Basically, whatever it is that they need to be able to ask good questions, to do the right things, and to make the best decisions that are beneficial and not burdens to those that they serve. Father, I ask you to be with everyone in Kingman. And there are so many opportunities around us to be generous and loving and helpful. Help each one of us to do our part in making our community a better place to live. So Father, again, we just thank you for your presence in our lives and in this meeting. And it's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Thank you, Father.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, we'll start with a awards program. It's actually a proclamation for the Extra Mile Day and recognition of the Extra Mile. And this has been requested by the Extra Mile Day America organization. And Christine Ott is not here this evening, but we will send this to her. The proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Kingman, Arizona is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas Kingman, Arizona is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas Kingman, Arizona is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas Kingman, Arizona acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 500 Extra Mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2021. Now, therefore, I, Jen Miles, Mayor of the City of Kingman, do hereby proclaim Monday, November 1st, 2021 as Extra Mile Day and urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but also acknowledge all those who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, and world a better place. In witness whereof I have hereto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Kingman on this day, October 19th, 2021. We'll send this, it's a good proclamation, and it's so important to recognize those extra mile people. And I'll just share, since we don't have a presentation tonight, that this morning we had an event where we actually recognized a person in our city who was going the extra mile. And it was actually our Clean City Commission who gave a nice plaque in recognition of Sherry from Sequoia Homes, that they keep their construction sites so clean. And the Clean City Commission wanted to recognize that. And so we had a nice presentation to honor that. And that's just a good example of going the extra mile for our community. So Annie, I'll get this back to you. Thank you. Okay, the next order of business is call to the public, and these will be comments from the public. For those wishing to address the council, fill out a request form, or since this is a hybrid meeting, we could have call-in people or people who have submitted email comments. Any comments will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or reschedule the matter for consideration, decision at a later time. And there will be no comments allowed that advertise for a particular person or group. Comments should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Did we have any phone or email request?
Mayor, we did not have anybody that registered to join us via Zoom, nor did we have any written comments submitted ahead of time. We do have 2 people present in chambers that would like to address council this evening.
Yes, and I have those here, so thank you. The first person I'd asked to come up to the podium is Jamie Johnson from Sisters of the Streets.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for letting me come and speak. My name is Jamie Johnson. I am a lived experience expert on urban domestic sex trafficking, and I moved here literally the day before the pandemic last year. So I am just getting my kind of claws in the community, and I was doing a lot of community work in San Diego with among the sex trafficking population, the survivors, and so I wanted to just come and show my face and let the community know that the resources I have are available. We offer empowerment services for those that have been sexually exploited, sex trafficked, labor trafficked, or any other form of human trafficking. We offer support groups. We offer transportation needs for out of abusive and domestic situations, which includes travel through bus, airfare, or gas fare. We also do a lot of referral services to connect women, men, and youth with shelters that they might need for long-term or short-term availability. And so we are a nationwide resource. I am a current resident of Kingman, and I, like I said, do have my lived experience with many different struggles through life, and so I just like to take those and try to empower the community. And on the other side, I also have services available to offer the community for domestic violence shelters, homeless shelters, addiction shelters that could possibly need to recognize this population and need a resource, mentor, or advocate to consult with about how to best utilize resources for them. And so I just wanted to come and say hello and let you guys know that resources available in the community if it's not already, and if so, I'd like to be able to add to that. So,
Thank you so much, and I apologize, but what the name of your organization and
Oh, I'm
contact,
sorry,
and
maybe I didn't
contact
say it.
information?
yes, it's called Sisters of the Streets.
Okay,
Thank you so much. God bless. Have a good night.
God bless. The next speaker will be Bruce Bollinger. Mr. Bollinger.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bruce Bollinger. I live in Walnut Creek Estates, been a resident of Kingman for some 35 years. I know almost everybody here on the council, and I sent out a letter at the end of September bringing to mind a minor improvement permit application that has been approved by your actions, that we have to now submit a minor improvement application for simple things such as garden walls, decks, accessory structures such as sheds, permanent storage containers, etc., equal to or less than 200 square feet, and fences. We already have setbacks already set in our city rulings or codes. This is simply another form that the citizenry are going to have to fill out with no benefit to the citizenry. It was brought to my attention only because a shed that I sold was too close to a neighbor's property line or to the customer's property line. In researching about this, there was not a single shed company in Kingman, Kingman or Golden Valley that was notified of this change. So now, somebody is supposed to be telling us that we have to tell all of our customers who are buying sheds or building decks or fences, potentially even raised garden beds, that we need city approval to put these in. In talk, how much time do I have? Seconds? My concept is, please get this thing removed off of the rulings. It's just excessive stuff with no benefits. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask staff, I know this discussion has been had in the city, and it may be appropriate at least to come back and let us know the history that is supporting this and what the city recommends and whether any commission has looked at it.
This belongs to the Planning Commission. It came through the new development code for our planning. So if anybody was going to relook at it, it would be the Planning Commission.
That would be something to ask them if they would like to do that. Okay, next order of business. The consent agenda. All matters listed here are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. If any discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Before we move on this, I would like to remove item A, the regular meeting minutes, because they were not posted online, and we will have those available at the next council meeting. So I would like us to consider the consent agenda items B and C. Would anybody like to remove either of those from the agenda for discussion? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items B and C.
I'll make a motion to approve consent items B and C.
Second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. We have no old business this evening, so we'll move on to new business, resolution number 5381, an intergovernmental agreement for the Devlin Sewer Main. Mojave County is proposing to extend a sewer main on Devlin Avenue using funds from the American Rescue Act Act. I'll get that right. The extension will begin at the intersection of Devlin Avenue and Bank Street and will continue to the intersection of Sierra Road and College Drive, totaling approximately 1.5 miles. The intent of the project is to connect residents in that area to the sewer system. To help property owners connect their homes to the sewer laterals, the city will make available our sewer connection assistance program. Staff recommends approval. Manager Foggen.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is actually one of those fun projects that we've been able to partner with Mojave County on. They received, of course, American Rescue money, and each district within the county has been allotted a certain amount of money. And so we've been working. I saw Tim Walsh walk in. Welcome, Tim. I know Phil has been working with the county closely, and Phil would just like to share a little bit about the project. I know we've got, I believe, a map to show you of where this is, just so that everybody knows. Again, great partnership with the county, which we've appreciated, and so Phil will give you a little bit more on the project itself.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As mentioned, this is a partnership with the county and IGA to share some responsibility in getting this project done. The project starts here at Bank Street, so if you look at the map, it starts at Bank Street. It runs west along Devlin Avenue and terminates up here at College Drive. Like I said, the intent is to get everybody there connected. County's working really hard to incentivize people to connect. They've committed some money to, they'll build the main and the laterals, and they're also chipping in some money to abandon the septic and get people connected. And then we're also making available our sewer assistance program. Just of note, we are asking for, or the county's asking as part of this IGA, a couple exceptions to the requirements on the sewer connection assistance program. First is we want to allow rentals and there's a lot of rentals out in this area, so that was one exception. Our current program doesn't allow rentals. And the second, we typically ask for a homeowner's policy. Given the area out here, we're willing to waive that requirement. So should be a good project. We're excited for it, and if there's any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Are there any questions for Mr. Allred? Well, I think you are spot on that the partnership with the county sounds wonderful. I really appreciated the exceptions that were requested for the rentals, and I think that will really facilitate this project being successful. And so thank you, Mr. Walsh. I know you're back there. And so I love these kind of partnerships, win-win. Thank you. We do need a motion. If there's no further discussion, we need a motion to approve the resolution.
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 5381.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve 5381. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, nay? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Is that our only new business? Okay. Looks like a short agenda. Department reports. Okay. We are going to have a department report on legislative update and priorities.
Yes,
Mr. Foggin,
and thank
do
you.
we have representative here?
Yes, we do, and
I-
we're
we're
really
gonna have
grateful for
Colleen
that.
first. Okay.
Yes. So
Welcome.
Colleen has been putting this report together, and we've been fortunate to be able to be joined by representatives. And so I'll let her do the introductions, and we'll kick it off from there.
All right, Mayor, Council, I'm not only your Public Information Officer, I'm also your intergov for some of the year. It kind of depends on how long these folks take at the Capitol, depending on how long I do that job, but mostly it's year-round. So Regina Cobb is supposed to be joining us via Zoom as well due to her new role with the Arizona Dental Association as the new executive director, but I'm not seeing her on there. So I will go ahead and turn it over to Representative Bisucci, who has driven all the way from Havasu to join us tonight and to talk about kind of what happened last session and then what we can look forward to this session. Then we can talk about priorities and like what we need to kind of focus on between now and the beginning of the session, which will sneak up on us very quickly. Starts the beginning in January. So, Representative, take it away.
Welcome, Representative Biasucci.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Appreciate it,
being
Mayor.
here.
Thank you, members. So, as you all were aware, we had an extremely long session this year, and a big reason for that was because we had, last year with COVID, we had a skinny budget, so we didn't get to do a lot of things we were hoping for. And so this year, we were kind of had a surplus of dollars, and usually when that happens, everybody wants a piece. So a lot of times that causes a little bit of a longer session. But once again, we got a lot accomplished, especially for rural Arizona. I just want to say how great it is to be part of a team with Representative Cobb and Senator Borelli, and the relationship we have with you all here on the board, as well as Lake Havasu City Council, Bullhead City. It's truly really a gift, because a lot of cities and towns don't have that with their legislators, the relationship we have. So I think it's a big reason why we were able to accomplish so much the last 3 years. So I'm just going to give a quick rundown of some big things. I'm going to be a little selfish here and go through three bills that were mine personally, that I think were a huge win for Arizona itself. First one, HB 2889. which has to do with child sex crimes, human trafficking, which was just spoken about earlier. This bill makes Arizona actually the most strict in the country now in regards to child sex crimes and sex trafficking. So what we did is we changed the law that if you are convicted of a child sex crime, human trafficking, sex trafficking, it is now straight time in prison. So there's no more early release, there's no more parole. You will be going away for the entire duration of your sentence. If there is a second offense, it's life in prison without parole or early release. And a big reason we did this is because we're seeing obviously a lot of situations with the border crossings and a lot of children that are being trafficked through there, as well as other situations. And I think it's finally coming to light on how serious this issue is in this country. And we felt that in Arizona it was time to really be the leader and say enough's enough and put an end to it. So we're hoping that this is a beginning. We hope other states will follow as we did, and a huge win that we got that passed this year. Second bill, HB 2111, makes Arizona a Second Amendment sanctuary state. A lot of people might think this was not necessary since we have the Constitution, but there has been talk of really infringing on those rights at the federal level, and so we just wanted to make sure Arizona is protected. And the bill is extremely simple. All it states is if any laws change at the federal level that are not in line with Arizona gun laws, they will not apply. And the reason why this is important is because the 10th Amendment is here for a reason, and we truly believe in the Constitution at the legislature. And so we wanted to make sure that the states have the rights, especially when it comes to our gun rights. And we want to make sure that those don't get infringed upon unless the state and the citizens want to change it themselves. It shouldn't be something that's done at the federal level. So that was another huge win for us at the legislature. Going down to the Veterans Home, this was something that was pushed heavily by Senator Borelli, and it was granted to us to build a Veterans Home. And it'll either be in Lake Havasu or Kingman are the two sites that we're looking at. And so these are homes that are kind of half medical, half housing as well for our veterans. And really the whole state already has these in southern Arizona, Phoenix, Yuma. So we were really the last area to not have one. And so this was a huge fight for us in the budget. It was granted to us. So it requires a $25 million investment from the state, which is included, and then the feds come in with the remaining $75 million. So the beginning stages are happening now. They're doing some site visits. The feds are, and the VA to see where they want to actually have this in either Kingman or Havasu. So hopefully we'll have some answers with that in the next year on what they decide. We had infrastructure, as we all know, is a huge deal for the state of Arizona. Our roads are not in the best shape, especially in the rural areas. This has been a fight from day one, and although this does not include Kingman, it was still a big win for us for Highway 95, which I think all of us use, whether we go to Bullhead or to Havasu. There have been sections that have not been paved in over 20 years, and this is what we face being out here in rural Arizona. And this was a fight to get this funding, and this was to repave all of 95 from Bullhead all the way down through Havasu. And this bill actually died initially in committee. And this is something I want to bring up because I hope everybody realizes why there truly is a great state of Maricopa that exists. And a majority of the legislators are from the big cities, and they don't understand the rural areas. And so when this bill came forward at first, it died because the legislators on the panel said, why do you need $46 million to repave your highways? Your roads are fine. And so the bill died 3-7 in committee, which Representative Cobb was actually the chairwoman of, which is even more ironic. And she was fighting for it, I was fighting for it, but they still killed the bill. So I came home one weekend in my suit. I was extremely frustrated and angry, and I was literally taking pictures of the highway out of my car when I got home that weekend, and came back to committee, showed them the pictures, and said, this is what we deal with in rural Arizona. Just because you're not out here, you have your 303s and 202 loops, and you guys always have construction. This is not the case out in Arizona. And so luckily it passed 10-0 at that point once that happened, and we got it in the budget. So $46 million was approved for highways. Another huge victory for the state of Arizona is we are now a flat income tax state. So, when we are sitting here with record revenues, which we have the last few years, we finally got out of this debt that we've been faced with for quite a while since the recession in 2008. we realize that a lot of people are moving to Arizona. A lot of people are coming here from California and other high tax states. And so we knew we had to compete with states like Nevada and Texas and other states around us that have zero income tax. And so we finally were able to agree to move it down to 2.5% flat tax across the board for income taxes. So it doesn't matter how much you make, it'll be 2.5%. Now, in those conversations, there was talk from the cities that you guys could be affected negatively with your income because of this, but we put that in the language to say that there will be no impact on you if they were to dip into your funds. So there's a clause in there that holds you guys harmless if that were the case. So the funding would be there to cover anything that would be a loss to the cities. So we made sure that was happening, and we appreciate, I know a lot of people reached out, mayors as well, so saying that there was a concern. And like I said, I come back to why it's so important to have those relationships, because we listened and we understood, especially small cities, why this could be an impact. So education, I come from a family of educators. It's extremely important for me that our educational system is funded properly. And we actually have a record investment this year of $12 billion. So just to give you an idea, that's really almost the amount of our whole budget, is about 12 to 13 billion per year. And this year, because of some Fed influence or investments into education, we actually have 12 billion going to education alone this year, which is a huge victory for our state and for our educational process. So a big win, and hopefully we can make sure our educational, whether it's private, public, regardless, I think it's important that all educational institutions and options are taken care of, and kids are given the opportunity to learn in whatever system they thrive in. Water, we all know how important that is. Representative Cobb has been a huge fighter in regards to making sure our water is protected here. And Sunny and I have both also been right behind her in making sure that again, great state of Maricopa doesn't come and steal our water, which they like to do. And so we've been fighting back against a lot of water being pumped out to Phoenix. And we also understand that we need to make sure that we preserve our water. So we put $200 million aside to figure out what our next steps are going to be. We'll have some meetings coming up soon with a committee that talks about this, but some ideas that have been brought up, which, when we were having the conversations about water, we had actually states from along the Mississippi that reached out to us. And these states are coming to us and saying, look, we flood every single year, and we have to spend millions of dollars on fighting this flooding, and whether they're causing damages to crops or to buildings or whatever the case may be. Have you guys thought about maybe us having a partnership to pump that water to you guys? Now, there's a lot to think about when you think about trying to do that, right? You have pipelines, you have the water in the Mississippi is different than the water in the Colorado. How do you manage that? How do you clean that? So whether it's that or it's desalinization, going to the brackish water, we are putting money aside, and we did with $200 million to say we need to figure this out now before it becomes a big issue. And so the money is there, and the talks will be starting coming this next fiscal year, which is a huge win because we need to figure something out quickly. Another huge win is our border. I talked about before how we were having a surge. I think everybody sees this in the news as of late, of the tens of thousands that are coming to our border. And so we need to make sure they're protected. I was in Cochise County 2 weeks ago with their sheriff's department, and they're only able to apprehend 30% of those that are coming across, which is, it's scary to think about. And you hear about the women and children as being the main issue, but that's not the case, especially in areas like Cochise where, they're catching 20-year-old men in full camo, armed with drug packs. So that message is not getting out, which is unfortunate, but we see that and we understand that the legislature. So we put $70 million aside to make sure that our National Guard is down there helping the sheriffs, because unfortunately the Border Patrol is not. They've been moved to other locations, to Texas and California. So when I went down there, all the stations that are 20 miles in that Border Patrol has, they're all unmanned. They only have maybe one or two that are out there trying to cover these 20, 30, 40-mile areas that are open. So it's really the sheriffs that are down there doing all the work. So we had to make sure that we sent the National Guard down there. we had to make sure that we put money into there so that the sheriffs could have more technology with the cameras and sensors and whatnot. But regardless, it's an issue, and it's something that we need to really take seriously because, when you have people coming across that are not vetted, and 30% retention rate is not good at all. So 70% are going unaccounted for. And when you see these pictures of them in full camo and armed, they're not the good guys, right? They're not the ones that are trying to seek asylum from some of these countries. So luckily we put that money in there, and I think we're going to be doing more soon. The $32 fee, which we've all come to love on our vehicle registration, the VLT fee, which has been topic of great debate. We finally got that repealed this year. Now, you had people that said that money is needed. It was needed for DPS. This is why it was put into play to make sure that they were funded. A big reason why we were able to remove that fee is because we're able to fund DPS properly, right? So when we have record revenues, it doesn't make sense that we're taxing the people when we have the money there. And so we made sure that we said, look, let's make sure the DPS raises are taken care of, which we did. We gave raises to DPS, correctional officers, prison guards, probation officers, state court employees. So we made sure everybody was taken care of. And so once we did that, we were able to remove that fee. So as of July, that $32 fee is now gone off of your car registration. $12 million was used for election integrity. I think we all, with this audit that has happened, we understand that there are some major issues with our election process. There's never been an audit in the history of this country in any state ever, a forensic audit. So, Arizona being the first is crucial, but the key is, what do we do to fix it, right? Whether you have issues with signatures or you have issues with ballots, what do we do to make sure this never happens again with the possibility of fraud happening? And so we made sure that we put $12 million towards that. One aspect is the ballots. The ballots are going to be like currency. They'll have black light capabilities. They'll have watermarks. They'll have chips inside the ballots, which, this is something that will be, again, the first in this country that Arizona will be taking on. And like I said, I think the important part is whatever the issues are, we find those out and then we fix it so we don't have to go down this road again. And that's really extremely important for us. Another thing, SLIF funding, the State Lake Improvement Fund is something we finally restored. So for 10 years, that money was swept. Something happens a lot down here at the Capitol is money being swept for other areas. We saw that with HERF. SLIF was another thing, and that's got to do with our waterways. Has to do with boats, launch ramps, state parks, and so we made sure that money was backfilled now. So for 10 years, there was no money in there at all. So we finally put $4 million this year and $4 million next year to be used to hopefully try to improve our state parks and things along the water. Other than that, I'll quickly jump to next year. Airbnbs are going to be a big issue. I know you all have been dealing with that. Maybe it's not as much as like Havasu and some other areas, but you have a lot of companies coming out of New York that are buying 20, 30, 40 homes at a time, and nobody's there to manage these homes in person. So police are having issues, neighbors are having issues. So we finally sat down last month and said, all right, we're going to tackle this because for 4 years there's been a bill that's gone through the legislature and has died every time. And a big reason for that is because I think a lot of the times when the bill comes forward, it's just extremely complicated and there's too much government involved. One bill I think last year had sensors they wanted in the homes, sound monitors that if it went over a certain decibel, the police department would be notified. And that to me is that's just crazy. I mean, that's just too much government, and obviously that bill died. I think it was probably one of the worst bills. I think it was like 10 to 50 or along those lines. So we're going to make sure it's fixed. We're going to try to have a minimal impact. Make sure that the homeowner, whoever owns the home, that information is readily available to the city. So if there are issues, you guys can call them, and so that the police department can come and take care of sound issues if that's the case. So we've been sitting with the mayors and seeing what we can do. So hopefully we'll have a solution this year. Workforce housing is another big issue. We're seeing issues with people not being able to afford homes in Mojave County anymore. You're talking about the heart of the workforce, chefs, waiters, teachers, police officers cannot afford to live in Lake Havasu, Bullhead, Kingman anymore. and it's something we need to tackle. So that's going to be a big priority for us to think of ideas of how do we make affordable housing for the people that we need here the most. And so this is going to be my top priority this year, coming this next session, to make sure that we figure out something to make that happen. Other than that, I think that is all. There's a lot to digest there, so I'm open for any questions, and thank you again for having me here.
Questions? Anyone?
That's too easy.
No, go ahead.
Thank you. Representative Biasucci,
Yeah.
thanks for being here tonight.
That's
And I know we saw each other at the Rural Transportation Conference last Thursday. And I was going to mention it later, but since you're standing up and you
Sure.
can answer any questions, we appreciate it. I know one concern, for example, people have mentioned about gas tax. And at that conference, it was discussed that gas tax is not going to be enough to help cover costs for repairs and maintaining our roads. And I know one thing that's been brought up too is the unfairness of electric vehicles not paying very much for the registration. And one of our other representatives brought the fact up that has changed, and when does that go into effect? Next January?
Yeah.
Can you touch that?
Sure.
We
So that was actually me who brought that up about the change.
Was that
Yeah.
you? Okay.
We had
I
one
thought
rep
you did,
who-
but I wasn't sure.
No, you're
I
good.
apologize.
So what was brought up during the Rural Transportation Summit, which was last week, was this idea, or the reality that electric cars are not paying their fair share. So this has been the case for many years, where you could have a brand new Tesla, 5-year registration would cost $50 or $100, which is crazy to think about, because our own cars, gas powered, 1 year, you're talking $200, $300, $400. And so when I actually got elected, this gas tax idea was brought up. Representative Campbell has been pushing the idea of we need to raise our gas tax. And for me, I just didn't think that was an option. I didn't think it was practical, because we're moving away from gas, right? Vehicles get more miles per gallon each year. New vehicles come out. There are more electric vehicles on the road. So at some point, gas will eventually dwindle and go away. So for me, the idea was a gas tax is not a long-term solution for our roads. So the first thing I looked at was electric vehicles. And so we passed a bill that says if you have an electric vehicle, they will now be paying the same as if you have a regular gas-powered vehicle. So that goes into effect next year. So that's going to be the first stage. It'll be completed by 2023. So it's a phased in, and the reason we did a phased in is because we knew that you have a lot of industries that use electric and natural gas. You have the trash company, Waste Management. You have a lot of transportation companies that have natural gas or electric. So we didn't want them to have a huge, just straight impact in 1 year. They're paying, how many it's thousands and thousands for those kind of vehicles that are obviously larger and more expensive. And so 2022 is the start. By 2023, it'll be a full implementation that they will be paying the same as everybody else. Now, does that solve it completely? No, right? That's going to be a great influx of revenue, but the reality is they're still not paying any gas tax, and they're using the same roads. So now there's got to be a solution, which we'll have to discuss, on how do we fill that gap? Do we have enough tax revenue to continue the surplus into our infrastructure and our roads like we have in the last few years? We hope that's the case, but we are all smart enough in this room to understand at some point the economy is going to come back crashing down, and we have to be prepared for that to happen. So this next year will be those conversations. How do we counter this electric influx of vehicles coming into the market, whether it's natural gas? How do we make sure that they are still paying their fair share? Because although the registration is now going to be matched, they're still not buying gas. And so that's something that we'll be having a conversation on. We all know pushing any kind of tax increase is never popular at the legislature. And it's something I agree with. I think, my first thing is always going to be, if the money's in the budget, infrastructure needs to be a priority every single year. The government has their duty to do a few things, in my opinion, that should be required. Education is one that takes up half our budget. Government services is another. And I'm talking about access and things like this. But infrastructure needs to be right there in the top 3, because without proper roads, we do not flourish in this state, especially rural Arizona. So that's something we will be working on. But yes, to answer your question, starts next year, and it'll be fully implemented by 2023.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I know that was one of the things this conference talked about, was future legislation about concerning all these things that you've just covered. So I appreciate you once again bringing that all up.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Leo.
Thanks.
Anything else? Well, I don't know if Representative Cobb is going to be with us, so can we spend a few minutes on water?
Absolutely.
Because we had a meeting, was it last week, with Representative Cobb and discussed upcoming legislation. And I know you're familiar with it and probably would have deferred to her to speak to it. But since she's not here, I'd like to just reinforce how important the groundwater solutions are, in addition to the transfer issues from the Colorado River. But I think that her legislation that's coming up, we're working very hard to advocate for support, both as individuals, mayors, but also as part of GAMA. And there's now the Rural Water Coalition to find common ground for where we can support each other on water. But the rural management area and the irrigation non-expansion area, those are really critical to the upcoming legislature from us. And I know that you're going to support Representative Cobb, and that is the power of that partnership, and that's wonderful. And we would appreciate it because the other thing that happened last week at the non-AMA Groundwater Committee statewide is that they finally agreed at the next meeting we will discuss as a committee the RMA and INA. So I think there's going to be intense efforts to get that support behind you.
Right, and we appreciate that support because, like I mentioned before, it's a constant battle for us down there, and trying to make sure our water is protected, especially in the rural areas. And, a perfect example of the groundwater issue was in La Paz County. You have the Harquahala aquifer, which is, they're talking 2 to 3 sizes of Lake Mead, so a huge water source that's underground. And of course, Maricopa caught wind of that water source, and right away, they try to steal it. They try to figure out how to take it. They're trying to push legislation. And it took Gina, Sonny, and I to come together and say, you're not taking this water. I don't care what you do. And actually, it's interesting. When you have a 31-29 House, which is what we have right now, 31 Republicans, 29 Democrats, usually it's difficult to get legislation or to stop it in that situation. In this case, it actually is in our favor. When you have these members try to say, we're going to take your water, well, if Gina's off and I'm off, nothing's getting through in this legislation, right? And so it's actually a benefit right now. That's not always going to be the case down there. And that could change. And they always feel that they deserve the water or they can use it more than we can. They're growing faster and they have bigger population. Our response is always, look, if you guys want to grow and do your thing, it's your job to preserve in your areas. It's not your job to come steal what we have out here, because our growth is just as important as theirs. And this is a battle that we will always have, and this is why it's been so great to have us three on the same agreement on that with Gardner Water, and that we're not going to let this go, and we're not going to let people take it. So you have my word now that you have our support for the legislation coming up, and I know Gina and I spoke about this, and we said this is one of those things where, this is her last term, so she's termed out after this, and, we made it very clear with each other that, we're not giving in on this bill that she's pushing forward. We're not going to say no, or we're going to give it up. We're going all the way through to even it goes to the budget negotiations. We're not faltering until we make sure that this gets through, so.
That's very encouraging.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Also, on the transportation issues, I know there'll be some upcoming legislation for utilizing the funding that has been put aside for rural grants. And so we appreciate your support on that too, because we have a project here in Kingman that is actually part of our infrastructure project for Eastern. But there are also several county projects. I think there are 4 altogether, and we really would appreciate that support.
Yeah, and just to touch on that again, this is one of the things that I am passionate about is just, like I said, a lot of times we get forgotten about out here in rural Arizona, and we have to make sure that the money's set aside for our county roads and our city roads and making sure we're taken care of, because we just don't have the type of resources that cities like Phoenix and Tucson have with, they have a lot of different taxing authorities and things that they voted on to, make these loops, but we don't have that, luxury out here in the rural areas. So we're always going to push for more money for infrastructure, especially for rural Arizona. So, and we did that in this budget, and we'll continue to do that as long as we're down there. So.
And one last topic.
Yeah.
I'm taking advantage of you
You're
being
good.
here. We had the director of the Arizona Department of Housing reach out to us, really just today, and wanting to set up a meeting to discuss affordable housing partnerships. So we're very encouraged to have that outreach effort and also to have that dialogue with them. But I think this is something I'm very glad that you're pursuing that strongly in the legislation, because it's going to take a public-private kind of approach.
Yeah, and this is, it's been extremely difficult. We've been working on this, workforce housing, low-income housing idea for probably about 6 to 8 months now. And the issue that we're running across right now is, you have a very, very hot housing market. And so a lot of builders, and I don't blame you, you run a business, I understand, they're taking advantage of this phenomenal market. And so it's very difficult to find people that are willing to say, sure, I'll join and build these homes and take half the price or the profit or whatever the discount's going to be. It's hard to find that right now. And so it's important that we come together, and we just had a meeting actually last week here and discussing this exact topic on how do we bring everybody together and get grants and LIHTC, low-income housing tax credit. We passed that at the legislature, which is an incentive for builders as well. So it's really important that we all come together and find a solution. Like how do we build something that they can, every builder is still going to want to profit, and that's understandable.
Right.
But we have to find some kind of private-public partnership to say, we're going to make it appealing for you to do this and also give back to the community, which is huge, right? We have to find people that are willing to say, we understand that we're at risk here of people moving out of the state, moving to the bigger cities or whatever to find affordable housing. That happens, we're in trouble, regardless where we live. Kingman, Bullhead, Havasu. If people can't afford to have a house, our businesses are going to be even in more trouble than they are now. And this is an issue I'm hearing from, like I said, from restaurants. They're saying they can't find work because nobody can afford to live in, for example, Lake Havasu as a chef. We have to get ahead of that before it's too late. So you have my word that we're going to try to make something happen this year.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Comment here.
Go ahead.
Leo, I remember when you were running, you've just come so far. You're such a rising star and such great success
Appreciate that.
with getting your bills passed, and I'm so grateful we couldn't ask for a better representative.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate it.
Anything on virtual? No. Well, we really do appreciate you being here. This is a great update, and I think we all have a better understanding of where we need to go supporting you and your efforts.
I appreciate it.
So
Thank you, everyone. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much for being here, and also thank you for what you do also down there for us, not just for showing up tonight. One more bill I wanted to talk about that has been kind of, gets really good gumption at the beginning and then kind of like fizzles out, then we get really bummed. And it's a partnership that I've worked on with the Chamber for 3 years now, since Becky's been on. And it's the abandoned building registry business for downtowns. And so we've gotten a lot of great support from the league. The league's worked on it. We send them photos. Other cities have worked on it. And I really feel like this could be the year too that we can really get it going. And like I said, I've worked with the Chamber. They've supported it. The Arizona, Builders Association has supported it. The Realtors Association has supported it. It's something I think we can get past, and it's something I think our downtown really needs to get, keep that vibrancy going. So
That's wonderful.
with that, that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions? No?
Okay,
Thank you, Ms. Haynes.
So I'll just tack on to thank you to Colleen, thank you, Leo. Appreciate the efforts that are being made. As part of this discussion, I just, as we look forward to January, that's just right around the corner, just wanted to make sure if the council had any other things that may be of interest that we can do some research on, or that would be of interest to the council as far as state legislation is concerned. We want to just make sure, obviously, I'm a text or phone call or email away. But as we were talking about this, one of the things we wanted to make sure and let the council know is if there's something legislative-wise that we need to be championing, please let us know. And if there's something that we've talked about in the past, I think we've been covering everything, but if there's something that the council would like us to be working on with our local representatives at the state level, we would be happy to do the research and talk about that. So just wanted to make sure that invite was out there, and if obviously the ones that we're interested in have been covered. I don't think we can say obviously enough about our support for water, as the mayor's pointed out, but I will tell you, while we have our representative, one of our representatives here, that I never talk about gas tax. I talk about a user fee, and that's really what we're talking about. Is we've mislabeled gas tax where it's a user fee. It's actually one of those things that has been mislabeled and misunderstood, and our roads are now suffering from it. And any help that we can get from state legislature on road funding, obviously that's a hot topic and has been a hot topic for Kingman for many years and will continue to be. So any help we can get on infrastructure funding, obviously we'll be paying attention to that as well. But that really concludes what we had for you. So if there's any suggestions or anything,
I
we'll
do
take
have
this.
one.
Thank you, Mayor.
One I just want to tie in to that comment, and also one that Representative Biosucci made about Airbnbs. And this is, I know this is not as complex an issue for our city as it is for like Havasu and Sedona, but I would like for us to be fully engaged and supportive of these efforts. I was in that meeting last week with Mayor Moriarty and Mayor Sheehy, and it's I know it's going to be a phased solution, and you're going for part of it this year, and perhaps the issue is local control and getting more authority in our cities to be able to address particular situations. But I listened to the discussion, and I think that the strategies being made are sound. So anyway, that's something I would like us to because it's a rising issue. I think even nationally, I see a lot of information coming out on that regarding city ordinances and whatnot. Thank you.
It's on the list.
It's on the list. All right. Well, thank you again. And we'll move on to the next report, which is going to be on architectural design standards for buildings and structures in Kingman.
Thank you, Mayor. I've asked Rich to come and talk to you. I know that that there's been some emails and conversations that I've had with council members with regards to design standards for metal buildings. And so Rich, of course, he and his team, along with the Planning Commission, this is their world, and so it was appropriate that Rich come and talk to you about kind of these architectural design standards, what, obviously what they're designed to accomplish, and what were the conversations around these as we worked on developing them. So, Rich?
Thank you, Manager Foggin, Mayor Miles, members of the council. Yes, this is a report on the architectural design standards for buildings and structures within the city of Kingman that were recently adopted into the new zoning code that went into effect in June. The standards are established below to a level of design quality for all developments within the city. And it's the policy is really to enhance Kingman's unique local architecture and natural environment throughout the city. So all structures and buildings that are newly constructed in the city are to be finished with the following materials, and that includes, and this applies to building facades, which are the portions of the building that face towards streets. And that includes modular masonry materials such as brick, block, and stone, precast concrete, panels with decorative finish, stucco or stucco-like materials, and wood or vinyl siding. Materials that may be not used as predominant materials on walls that are visible from the public right-of-way, it can't be more than 25%, include things like metal, glass, except on the first story of a building, plastic or highly reflective materials. Some other standards that are part of the architectural design standards have to do with disallowing sort of long, blank, featureless walls. There's some stairway elements that are incorporated into multifamily residential buildings and some things on carports as well. The zoning code does define what a building is, what a structure is, and what a facade is. Again, the facade is the exterior wall of a building along a public or private street. It does not include alleys. So under the previous zoning ordinance, we did not have any specific architectural design standards in non-residential zoning districts except the C2 HMR district, which is the area along Wallapai Mountain Road, and the Bank Street Design Overlay District. We also had in residential areas what was called the appearance criteria, and among the criteria was a disallowance of metal siding except for aluminum lap siding. That was originally adopted about 30 years ago. In more recent years, we've had an increase in the popularity of metal building construction, primarily due to lower cost and pre-engineered type plans being more available to the public. And so we've seen an increase in the number of metal buildings, especially for accessory buildings. Under the old code, we did relax the standard to allow powder coating or baked enamel finishes for accessory buildings in residential areas. We also changed the roof material and pitch standards so they are more in line with what metal buildings typically were engineered for. Under the new zoning code, all buildings and structures in all zones must meet some minimum design standards. And then the KDRO, which is the Kingman Design Review Overlay, basically replaces the C2 HMR design and the Bank Street Design Overlay districts. And those are additional standards that are applied to those areas. So those are basically the same as under the old code. So as I mentioned, certain materials cannot be the predominant material, including metal. And when we say predominant, they cannot be on more than 25% of the area of the walls that are visible from the public right-of-way. In order to be equitable and consistent in how we apply the standard, we've only applied this to the building facade, again, that is oriented toward the street, or streets if it's a corner lot, as part of the approval of any building permit. So any street that is, or any side that's not oriented toward a street, still could have an all-metal finish, for example, or any of the other materials that I mentioned. And the purpose, again, for this change in the standards from the old ordinance was really to elevate the minimum design standards for all buildings, regardless of zoning district, in a way that would be consistent with a largely urban setting and would still sort of enhance Kingman's unique local architecture and natural environment. So just kind of quick tutorial on how we apply this. This is an example of an accessory residential garage. So the portion of the garage that faces the street, which is the part that has the garage door, that is the side that would be limited to no more than 25% metal material. The other sides of the garage that face the interior side or the yard or the rear of the property, there's no limitation on metal siding on those sides of the building. In the case of garage doors, oftentimes they are metal. It's possible the garage door could exceed that 25%. We're not requiring the garage doors necessarily to be anything other than metal, but if they reach that 25% or greater with the garage door, then the remainder of the facade of the house that faces the street would have to be treated with one of the other materials that's allowed. In cases where there is a corner lot, it would be the two sides that face the street. would be the size that we would apply that standard to. So as Manager Fogg did mention, there have been some complaints and concerns raised regarding these requirements. The P&Z Commission did meet in September to discuss these standards. We did hear from one member of the public who made several comments. The Commission did not direct any amendments to the code to be considered at this time, nor did they give us any specific direction other than they seemed satisfied with how we were approaching it, at least at this point in time. I will also point out that within the code itself, there is an appeal process in which applicants can appeal any interpretation or application of these architectural design standards or the other design guidelines within the code to the Planning and Zoning Commission for further review and decision if they disagree with our interpretation of the code. So as I said, we always try to work with the applicants to find solutions to any issues related to building in the city of Kingman. It's a daily basis we do that. Not trying to be overly burdensome to developers, but just trying to maintain a minimal standard for our buildings in town. So with that, be happy to answer any questions or take any comments on it.
Are there questions?
Yeah, I do.
Counselor, please go ahead.
Yeah, quick question for you, Rich.
Sure.
On a corner lot, I kind of would disagree if you had a side obstructing fence, maybe a block wall. I mean, do we have any latitude to move there? Let's say it was a corner lot, but you have a block wall that obstructs that side of the building.
So that is an interesting point. It's something we probably could look at if there was a wall there. What it could do is the portion of the building that was below the wall height, perhaps that could be, we have to look at the calculations, but perhaps we don't look at that portion of the building to calculate the 25% because it wouldn't otherwise be visible. A wall is a fairly permanent structure. I'd be less open to that if it was just full, trees or, well, we might put something here at some point in the future.
No, I'm talking block wall.
But if there was a block wall, yeah.
Chain link with the side obstructing slats, maybe, but the plastic or the wind tarp they put on there, no, I wouldn't, accept that. But if it was a block wall or the side obstructing slats that get like the 90%, I mean, I think that's.
Yeah, as long as it was maintained, that's probably a reasonable alternative that we can take a look at because it serves the same function of screening.
Yeah, okay. That's my only comment and
Thank
question.
you. Thank you. Any other questions from the council?
Mayor, if I could, I'd just like to make one comment about this.
Please go ahead, Councilor Staley.
I'm the liaison of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and so I've been listening to some of the same complaints that we've heard at City Council about the new code. And there was a great discussion last week about the driveways in front of detached garages that are being added. And part of that discussion was, from our Planning and Zoning Commission, is that they spent over 2 years working on these new codes, and many aren't new, but they're just, is being cleaned up. We used a fantastic consultant. A lot of these things are, a lot of the codes are seen in other communities around here, so we're not trying to do anything different or out of the ordinary. The council as well as the commission received a lot of updates. So I think we were all on board. We all read it. We all had time to look through it. And now the commission is really standing by the new code, and they're not really looking to start making amendments already to something that they had worked so hard on. And so I really just wanted to share that sentiment with the council that they are listening to people coming forward talking about the code, but really they are standing by their hard work in putting something together that will move Kingman into the future.
Thank you, Counselor Staley. That's very helpful.
Mayor,
Any other comments?
Can I just add that the new code, the thing that I've really appreciated about the new code is the flexibility of what the new code allows. And as an example, the block wall consideration, where I think that's a great solution, and I think we can look at that. The driveways to accessory structures, there is an opportunity in our new code to allow us to look at different options other than a 6-foot or 8-foot cement driveway to accessory. And you'll remember a couple of months ago, we had a gentleman come to comment at the public comment section of the meeting where he had expressed some concerns about that. Well, Rich and my team were able to kind of put their heads together and work on a solution where we were actually able to come up with a win-win where that was achieved, and yet it didn't require an 8-foot cement driveway the entire for that. So I would echo what Councilor Staley said, is that there a lot of work went into that, and the code's got some flexibility that if something doesn't necessarily, it doesn't exactly fit, we have the ability to look at it and to really be flexible. And I really appreciate that about the code, because a lot of times you get to a code that your hands are tied and it is what it is kind of thing. And so I appreciate Rich and his efforts to kind of look for those solutions, and for the code and the work that's been done by both the City Council and the Planning Commission on developing something that will take us into the future. And really, we were nationally recognized for our development code as well. So pretty exciting all the way around. But thank you for your time on this. And we're kind of hoping to do a few more of these types of reports as issues come up with it. So
Thank you, Manager Foggin. And I watched part of that meeting, the Planning and Zoning Committee, on this subject, because I think all of us have been hearing from citizens concerned about the driveways in particular. And so I did watch the commission and saw that they came to the conclusion that they did not want to change it at this time. But at the same time, I appreciated, Rich, that you were speaking to some of the issues, such as the grandfathering in of existing properties, and I think that puts a lot of comfort in people's minds, but also the options that you're discussing that could be considered. It's not in stone, or I should say in cement, totally. And so I think that the way I saw it, and you can correct me, but I saw that the commission was willing to let it ride for a while and see how it works in practice. So I think the council, so I think we're not going to have a vote on that anytime soon, but I appreciated all the thought and dialogue. Okay, so any other comments on any architectural designs? Nope. Then I would move on to announcements by mayor, city council, and city manager. Manager Foggin.
thank you, Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank the mayor for coming and doing a proclamation yesterday for the city. It is, if you do not know, it is City and Towns Week, and we had a gathering of city employees, and the mayor was kind enough to read the proclamation and provide it to me. And we appreciate your part, the elected officials' part in that, in what we do, and in the fact that cities and towns are key to what happens in our daily lives. And so just we still have lots of mini cupcakes, the cupcakes that we provided to the council as part of that celebration. So enjoy that, and we'd invite any of the public that wishes to come down and celebrate with us, or we still got cupcakes, so come get one.
And they're good.
Then, just as a reminder, tomorrow is the Tri-City Council meeting. It starts at 10 o'clock. That is going to be a hybrid meeting. If you've not seen the emails, I would encourage you to check your emails, because I know the invite's there. So that will be in Bullhead tomorrow at their city council chambers at 10 o'clock. Walk away from drugs tomorrow. So it's a busy week, right? Walk away from drugs tomorrow. The lineup starts at Smith's, and that's at 5:30. The walk actually starts at 5:45. So would invite anybody who wants to come out and show their support to walk away from drugs. That is always a great event. This year we're excited to actually, because last year we walked away from drugs, social distancing. So we're back. There'll be vendors there, and I know Miss Annie has played a very big part over the years and continues to be a big part of the walk away from drugs. Thank you, Miss Annie, for that. I also want to point out that the Veterans Day Parade is coming up. I find it hard to believe that I'm giving away October, but the Veterans Day Parade will be 11/13, and we are planning on having the council wagon. I don't know what we plan on participating. So if you mark that down on your calendar, would love to have council there as part of that. And then finally, just want to say happy birthday to the mayor. Her birthday is coming up. It's not the final thing, but want to say happy birthday to the mayor.
Thank you.
And then finally, the street drags is happening this weekend. And if you want to see a really big gathering and fancy cars, please come out and support that event. It's going to be, I think, really cool, and pretty excited about that. So those are my announcements, a lot of them.
There's a lot going on, including my birthday. But I want to just, since you brought it up, my daughter tells me that I'm leveling up. She said, that sounds so much better than you're getting old. And it refers to electronic games when characters level up. She said, because I wasn't sure what she was really telling me. But apparently they get either stronger or some tools they didn't have, or maybe more wise. So I said, well, I'll take it. So everybody, I'm leveling up, not getting old. Okay, I'm going to start with the virtual. Councilor Samily.
Hi, good evening. There's nothing for me this evening. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Nelson.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you. Just a quick on the street drags this weekend. There's a lot going to be going on, and a lot of activity, a lot of people. Let's enjoy this amazing event that has been brought to us. And honestly, this organization did not look at the city of Kingman and say, hey, we want you to pay for this whole thing. They looked at the city of Kingman and said, hey, can you support us? We've got it handled. And that's pretty darned impressive in my book for any organization to come into any community and say, we want to bring something amazing to you, and we're not expecting all that much. We had to do some things, but honestly and truly, the city of Kingman did not have to come up with a great deal of money for this event. And that's pretty darned amazing to me. Something we do need to take into consideration. I think that's pretty cool. Say thank you to them. And on the other side of it, there's going to be a whole lot of people in town. Let's be kind, let's be generous, and let's be polite, and let's enjoy the weekend. Thank you.
Are you driving?
Oh, heck no.
Okay, just had to ask, but thank you for those comments. Councilor Staley.
I don't have anything else to add tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Mello.
Hi, Mayor. Talking about the street drags, I am driving. I will be driving. They're bringing in a very qualified opponent for me, so we'll see how that goes. I plan on winning. Um, Also, you and I had attended the library's ribbon cutting for
Oh,
their
yeah, I
new
forgot that.
branch, and it was beautiful. It's
Yes.
just a beautiful facility, and it was a really good time that day, and it looks amazing. It really does.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah, so
It's
that's it for me.
beautiful. Thank you. Counselor Walker,
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, once again, I just wanted to mention that I was able to attend the Rural Transportation Conference last Thursday to represent the mayor and the city, of course. And Mayor, you already mentioned it. Of course, there are 4 things, rural request, or actually for grants, I think is what rural request for grants here in Mojave County. And of course, one of those is here in the city of Kingman. And so Supervisor Lingenfelter was able to make, when that time came to make those announcements, and he was able to show the other communities around the state what we are doing here in Mojave County and here in Kingman. So it was good.
That's good. I'm glad. I'm sure he did a good job on that. He is our liaison to the Rural Transportation Advisory Committee for WACOG, for our area, for our WACOG area. But thank you for attending so much. I couldn't be there, but I really appreciated that you were. The only thing I would add is that last Friday I was able to go to the KRMC. They had a 10-year anniversary of their being a member of the Mayo Healthcare Network. And so they actually had a person from Rochester and from Phoenix there, and had cupcakes with happy 10th anniversary. I'm getting a lot of cupcakes this time of year. But it was really a nice little event, and certainly celebrated that. And I would I always mention that we're a part of that network because it takes a high-quality medical center to be affiliated with them. And this is 10 years now, so that was very nice. And the other thing that I'd mention is Live Well Mojave, which we had a kind of a celebratory Zoom meeting, but reinforced all the goals of that committee. And the city is really in a great position to augment the Healthy Living Subcommittee of this county-wide coalition that is led by KRMC and the County Health Department. And so I know that Manager Foggin has been working with their leader, and we're, to make sure that we're engaged, because we can really help people have access to physical activities in our parks, our trails, and just probably other ways, fairs and events. So I really appreciate that. And if anyone is interested in knowing more about Live Well Mojave, they have a website that is livewellmojave@mojave.gov. So those are really what I had this evening. So we'll move on to council requests for future reports and updates. Do we have any requests for future reports? I'm hearing none. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for attending tonight.